remember a girl who used to love me, a perfect storm of sweet and mean. Well, I ain't never, ever, ever seen.
On today's edition of Green Chili Chisme, we welcome Jack Pledge, an Air Force kid turned global troubadour, a lifelong musician whose journey spans continents and decades. From grade school in Japan to high school in San Antonio, from busking in Spain and Africa to backing singers with soul, Jack's story is one of rhythm, resilience, and reinvention. We talk songwriting, legacy, and the quiet courage of losing your voice, but never your groove. Let's dive in.
Cali chick from all the canals, a whiskey swiller, gonna smoke you out. Well, I ain't never, ever seen such a girl like that.
Okay, again, Jack, thank you for coming on Green Chili Chisme. And let me ask you, let's start off with this. Tell me about your parents, the house you grew up in, and if you remember your grandparents and the influence they had on you.
Yeah, all right. First off, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, my father was an Air Force officer. My parents met right at the beginning of the war, the Second World War, in Houston.
Wow.
And then being an Air Force officer, we were everywhere. You know, I was born in Illinois. I have a sister who was born in Alabama. I have another brother who was born in Pennsylvania. And so we didn't actually. I knew two of my grandmothers. And neither one of them had a great deal of effect on us because she lived with us. She was very musical. She was also angry. The other grandmother lived in Houston, and I saw her once or twice. She was the figure that, that people talked about, but I really didn't know her. So, as my grandmother who lived with us was a piano player, had been started on a career in music when she married the wrong man.
Oh, okay. So
It's one of those things where she was a Catholic. She married for life. He left her with a 2-year-old baby, and she never remarried. She hated men. It wasn't her fault. It was, what happened.
right, of course, a victim of circumstance. Wow, so that's kind of crazy. So, I understand the military aspect. What was school like for you? Where did you do? I'm sure you jumped around a lot in school.
When we came here, I remember meeting my father when he came home from Korea in about 1952.
Wow.
And we were just up the street. We were just up the street on Hermain, which is quite a coincidence. So we were here until 1956. We went to Okinawa. I was at East China Sea School, where we would do duck and cover, get under the desk in case there was going to be a nuclear attack from China, which was 300 miles away.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I remember those.
The whole idea is ludicrous now, but anyway, yeah. And then we came back in 1959, and I was here in San Antonio. Went to high school and started my university before I realized that I'm really not an academic. And I took off for the world. When I was about 21, I could play Where Have All the Flowers Gone and Puff the Magic Dragon. I was really proud of Puff the Magic Dragon. I had all that, Peter Yarrow finger picking thing down.
Wow.
And I met a guy who could play really, really well, and coincidentally, I acquired a very expensive guitar, which
Oh.
I still have to this day.
Nice.
And I learned how to learn. His name was Tom Culpepper, for anyone who's old enough to remember Tommy in those days. And I learned how to learn, and he's responsible for the terrible things that happened in my life. That, I could have been an engineer or a garbage collector. Instead, I was a musician. Oh, what a waste.
Hey, you have a little responsibility for turning me too now.
Blame it on me. It was your mother's fault.
So let's see. Your grandparents. Where were they from? Where were your grandparents from?
I know that part of my grandfather, who died when my father was about 12, had run away from home in Illinois someplace and become a railroad engineer,
Oh,
which in those days, that was
that's
a
a good job.
big job. Yeah. And he had a heart attack at about 50
Ooh.
and died. And my mother's father, he was one of those people that nobody knows what happened to him. He took off and abandoned his family.
That's crazy. Yeah. So through high school, when did you? You said your one grandmother who lived with you played piano. Did she teach you, or I'm sure she was one of your first influences in music? When did you start picking up the guitar?
I think I seem to recall when we were living still on Okinawa, which would be in about 1959, there was a guy who had a guitar, and I was fascinated with it. I didn't understand anything that was going on, but I was fascinated with the instrument. And then sometime, I guess in the early 60s or so, we bought a $30 K guitar from the PX, which was, kind of expensive, but it was a very good guitar. And so I must have been about 13 or 14, and
Wow. Okay.
I would get those Mel Bay books, learned all my chords out of the Mel Bay books, and I had song books that had red sails in the sunset and the shrimp boats are a coming, and,
Whoa.
and then there was Peter, Paul, and Mary. It was like, oh, wow, this is neat.
Yeah.
The New Crystals, I'd learned to listen to the harmonies and to the lyrics, and I thought, I really want to do this. But it didn't occur to me that I could until after spending some time with Tom Culpepper, who said to me one time, very early on in our relationship, he says, there's nothing wrong with your head. It's just your fingers need work. So that's what I've been doing. I've been working on my fingers ever since.
Well, I think you probably told me something like that too, because I was a drummer. I'm a drummer. I played drums. I self-taught drums in the 80s. So, I knew rhythm and all that. It was just learning the fingers, and for a beginner, just getting through those initial pains of making your fingers tough, When did you realize that music was something? I mean, you already kind of hit it right there, but that music was something that you could probably do, for money.
Well, in about 1976 70 or 71, I should remember all of this stuff. I went to Spain and then to Africa
Wow.
with a friend of mine. And while we were broke in Marbella in Spain, I would take my guitar, this very expensive guitar, and go down to a bar that was called the Zulu Arms, bar number 1,
Whoa.
owned by this South African guy who was a short story writer and had been a policeman in South Africa. A very odd fellow, Jimmy. And I could sit there on the steps in this place and play my moody blues songs that I had learned and my Beatles songs, and the people would comp time like the gypsies do, like the flamenco thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like completely transporting. And at the end of the day, I'd leave with a little bit of money, a meal, as much beer as I could drink, and a van that I could sleep in. I thought, wow, this is wonderful. Of course, getting back to North America and doing the rest of it, buying the electric guitar and really destroying my soul
Yeah.
is a whole other story. But that was the first time I realized, that everything went down. If the whole world went down, I would still eat.
Yes, sir.
People would pay me to listen to me play.
That's pretty cool. That's got to be such a great feeling. I mean, the feeling I get playing songs, because like all these songs that I play now, it's still new to me. So when it's the song that's I grew up with and that means something to me, and then you play it, that emotion just can't. Sometimes it doesn't hold itself, dude. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
Overcoming.
yeah, it's very exciting. And then being in Spain, I've been to Spain too, and I can just see you sitting there busking, man. I can see it. I can picture it. Anyways, yeah, it's that was fun over there. I was in Barcelona for a while, and I lived in Germany for like 10 years. So who were you mentioned the blues and Peter, Paul, and Mary. Who were some of your other musical heroes growing up?
There was the Beatles when
Yeah.
Rubber Soul came out.
Right.
I wasn't such a big fan of the teeny bopper, She Loves You, yeah. But Rubber Soul, it was like, wow, this is neat.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, it was the Eagle. I was a big Buffalo Springfield fan. I'm still a big fan of Stephen Stills.
Yeah.
And so then Eagles, and then Crosby, Stills, and Nash. After that, all of that time, I was living in Canada at that time, and all of my friends were into Genesis and the Clash, and and so I listened to it all, and I liked it, but I was playing Leonard Skinner, Merle Haggard, so I forget where we were going.
No, that's good. So let me add on to that. Being from San Antonio, and some of the people already know, or actually know, they don't know. I just interviewed Shandon Som not too long ago. What was Doug? Because Doug is a huge influence on me, on my songwriting. He watches over me every day as I sit here and work, write, and talk to you cats. That's his second Rolling Stone cover. Did Doug do you have any run-ins with Doug, or influences with Doug?
No, because I left San Antonio in the very early 70s, 1970-ish.
Okay.
And I only came back in 2014.
So wow, so you're literally, when I met you is when you came back?
Yep.
We met each other through Mitch Webb, right?
Possibly, or John Ramirez.
It was Mitch. It was Mitch Webb. Yeah, it was Mitch.
Oh, that's right, because Michael was playing with Mitch.
Yeah, Michael would play with Mitch. Yep, that's correct. So wow, you were in Canada all that time?
No, I was in Canada for 12 years or so, and then I was in Australia for 30 years.
What? Okay, now that's interesting. Now, what was living in Australia like? 30 years, you must have liked it.
I liked my wife and I liked my family, and I have great friends in Australia, but Australia is from 1788 when Captain Cook landed and they brought in the first convicts.
Right,
Australia was under the thumb of the British Empire.
right.
From 1945, the end of the war,
Mm-hmm.
they became under the thumb of the American Empire. And so they don't really like Brits very much, and they don't really like Americans very much.
Hmm.
What they used to say about them during the war, which was still reiterated quite often, was the problem with Americans is that they're overpaid, oversexed, and overheard.
Well, wow. So you just endured over
I
there.
met some great people, and I played some really good music. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote some nice songs, I think. I certainly heard some great players. But overall, my experience in Australia was, I might play some Slim Dusty for me, mate.
That's it.
That was, that was pretty much it.
That was a
Uh,
pretty good
I,
accent.
I had a friend, who I'd given him a recording of a bunch of my songs, and he was, might still be a bit of a star, and he'd gotten a publishing contract with one of the big publishing companies who was handing them out like candy.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "So, mate, what are you doing with these songs?" And I said, "Oh, I put them on a tape and I drop them down a well." And he
No
said,
shit.
"Why?" I said, "Well, that way I know where they are." And he says, "Don't worry, mate." He says, "I'm in the family. I'll get them in." So I gave him a copy of my tape. He took it into his publisher, and about 3 or 4 weeks later, I called him up and I asked him the most diplomatic way that I could. I asked him, how it had gone. And he tells me this story. He says, "Well, I went in to see him, and the guy opened his desk drawer and pulled the tape out and put it on the desk and closed the desk drawer and says, 'If this guy's so good, what's he doing here?'"
Ah.
Oh, God. I loved it. I just loved it.
That's
So no, there were many things that I loved about being in Australia. There were many great musicians. Referencing back what you were talking to earlier, Tommy Emmanuel is a drummer too, and a very, very good one.
mm-hmm.
Anyhow, yeah. So that was what it was like being in Australia.
Interesting. So yeah, you're a pretty well-traveled cat, aren't you?
I've been on the road, man.
You've been on the road, earning your keep. On stage, okay, let's go this way. On stage, when was the first time when your audience and you connected? When was that? Because I know that's a moment you'll probably never forget.
Well, actually, I'm trying to think of it now, and I don't remember when it was. I know that it might have been that moment in Spain. When the room full of young tourists like myself and young Spanish hippies, got into sync on what was going on. That might have been the moment, but I had one on Tuesday.
Nice.
We do the pig pen
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know the Pig Pen, it's a family, they call it a family bar in downtown San Antonio.
Right.
And every Tuesday night we have an open mic. And I'm in the band. We also have a special guest artist who comes and does a half-hour set or so.
Nice.
I got to be the guest artist, patting myself on the back, especially looking back on the video. People laughed at all of the gags, the ones in the songs and the ones that I told on stage.
Nice.
They knew what I was about. I was completely at home. I don't know if this describes what you're talking about.
No, it does.
Yeah, it was one of those moments, like the whole room was with me. They were my friends.
That gives me great hope to know that after all these years of you playing, you still get that. So I have a lot to look forward to.
Tell you something else. Somebody says, the other day, blah, 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 and I said, oh, man, I'm really nervous. He said, what, you're nervous? Well, yeah. When you stop getting nervous, then you should go do something else.
Exactly. That's good. That's good advice right there, actually. So, when you're writing songs, I know I've gotten a lot better and more concise at writing songs. I don't know what your style is, but when you're writing, when do you know it's done? There's a lot of times where I could keep going. But when do you know you're...
When do you know it's done? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first off, somebody asked Paul Simon one time, how do you write a song? You know what Paul Simon said?
What?
Why do you want to write a song? Once you've said what you set out to say, then the song is done. If you want to put something extra in it, then write a bridge. It says something different.
Yes.
But basically, when I sit down to write a song, I start generally with a melodic hook. And I had this friend, John Hayton, who in his early days was one of the premier electric guitar players in Australia. But he had rheumatoid arthritis, so by the time I met him, he couldn't play guitar. He had a fretless bass that he could slide his crippled hands up and down on. And when he died, they called him Farmer John. And when he died, the first thing that came to my mind was John Hayton never was much of a farmer. And that's where the song came from. John Hayton never was much of a farmer. So people say, do the lyrics or the melody come first? Well, if it's a good hook, it comes, but it comes with a melody.
Right. That's
Sometimes
true.
the melody changes, but, that's the way that I feel about it. And when I'd said everything that I needed to say about John, the song was done.
Yeah, that's.
It's people who write. Somebody whom I love dearly said the other day that as far as the folky community is concerned, my songs are too prosaic. They tell stories,
Right.
instead of just being, vague. I taught songwriting for a while in college.
Oh.
And one of the things that they said, which was a gross misrepresentation, but still an idea that you might understand, is that country songs tell stories, rock songs give emotions. Well, generally speaking, what you could say is country songs require the lyrics to make more sense
Yes.
than rock songs do, perhaps.
Yes.
What do I know?
No.
But that's kind of my opinion on it.
Well,
so my whole thing about, I used to start my songwriting courses by quoting Norwegian Wood, and if you just read it out, it's poetry, it's lyric poetry, it rhymes, and it's got the rhythm and whatnot, but it's just conversation. The lyrics are conversational. Nothing is twisted to make them fit the form. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the other thing I look at in lyrics. Mick Jagger once famously said, "I don't really care much what the words mean, so much as what they sound like together."
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that I agree with. So songwriting is the ultimate compromise. No, I take that back. Short story writing is the ultimate compromise between a novel and a song.
Nice.
But you can accomplish both if you're clever and economical with the ideas that you want to present and the way that you use the words. You can accomplish both.
Sure. Yes. Exactly. And as a writer, songwriter myself, I totally agree. Well, because I have only recently played guitar, but it was always the writing. It was always the hook for me. And when Michael and I started making music, I mean, I had already, a catalog of songs that were just there in my computer, and Michael would, we'd start jamming, he'd start, tuning the guitar and then start noodling around. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, is that something there, or is that somebody else's? He's like, no, I'm just fucking around. I'm like, well, keep playing it. And I'd go through my computer and match it to what he's playing. This happened more than a dozen times. This was during our peak writing period for Michael and I.
Yeah, there you go. That's called synergy.
Yeah.
Synergy is the principle of the sum is greater, or rather the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Now, do you want to hear a funny story?
What's that?
A friend of mine tells this story. Two guys way on the road in a hotel room with their guitars and a bottle of whiskey and whatnot, writing songs, and they've got this little cassette recorder going, In the morning, the guy whose room they were in, he wakes up and he feels a bit blurry, and he puts on the cassette that they recorded. And he listens to it, and he thinks, oh, wait a minute. He stops, he backs it up a little bit, he starts it again, and he listens to it. And then he stops it, and he picks up the phone, and he calls his friend who's in the next room. He says, hey, you ever heard anything that sounds like this? Da-da-da-da-da-da. And his friend says, no. And he says, oh, great.
I'm out. That's funny. That's a good one. What do you, we kind of, again, we're coming in and out of these questions that I'm asking here, but what do you hope people feel when they leave one of your shows?
I hope they feel entertained, and entertained is a not a powerful enough word, but if I have reached them, if in the end they say, oh yeah, I like that song about the old man, or that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want them to go home and think.
Nice, yeah. It reminds me of a moment that Michael, when he was with the Mavericks, they were playing in Dallas, and it was the Granada Theater, sold out, and our band opened, and I was out in the crowd. I think I've told this story before, but I was out in the crowd filming video, and the band was up there playing, as the songwriter. I wasn't on stage. Anyways, and then Michael pulled out a song that I know the band had practiced, but I didn't know that they were going to play. And it's a song obviously nobody has ever heard, The entire song, we had the audience entire attention. I was filming it too. I filmed the whole thing. And we had their attention. No one was talking, and at the end it was just a crazy applause. And I literally, tears were going down my eye because I was like, I wrote that, and it touched people. And Michael composed it. It was a very moving moment.
Yep.
So yeah, I've kind of tasted little glimpses of what you guys, do on stage and get on stage, and now playing guitar. I've actually auditioned. There's a band that's trying to wrangle me in. But I'm doing this now, and it's just this takes up a lot of time, and I wouldn't have time to practice with them and stuff. But maybe later when I get some more down in the can, we can do that. Anyways,
well, we don't need the competition, so you keep making these great videos.
Well, you're in Texas, so you're good to go.
Sorry, it's related to what we were talking about. I used to work with this drummer. We wrote a bunch of very average to bad country songs, and one of them got picked up by an artist and recorded, and I knew that this had happened, but that was as far as it went. raining. The rain is just pelting down in Toronto, and I'm jumping out of one car to try and get into the club, and the driver says, "No, wait!" He turns up the radio. They were playing my song.
Oh, wow.
Somebody
Okay.
else recorded it, but yeah, that was a rush. That was a rush
I
to hear
bet.
something that you had written on the radio.
Yeah, I remember that feeling too. When our first album that we put out, we had a radio connection. So at the university at SAC, at San Antonio College. So we were always on there and giving interviews and playing. They were playing our music. So that is cool. I understand that big time. What's a moment or a recording maybe that you wish that more people knew about from you?
I don't quite understand the question.
Like, is there a piece of music out there that you wish got more attention than it did? Because, in this business,
Every one of them, they're like, if you're talking about my songs,
yeah,
they're like children.
yeah, I understand.
You love everyone and you hope every one of them then does well. I sent a bunch of songs I wrote a song that I thought was a hit. I knew it was a hit, I sent it off to, it's a story about two people who broke up and, now she's going south and he's going crazy. And I sent it off to the Nashville people, the Nashville International Songwriters Association, and they wrote back, well, you should have them get back together. I think, why? What's the point of saying, oh, I like your song, but I want it different?
Oh.
So yeah, I have a number of songs that I thought should have been big hits,
Right.
and they weren't for any number of reasons.
Right.
Mainly because they didn't fit the criteria. I wrote another one. It had a line in it that said, "Unfurl the sheets and sail away with you." And the Nashville guy says, "That's kind of poetic, isn't it?" You think, well, that's what it's lyric poetry. But no, I don't care. I've made it way past my use by date. People like my songs. They like my guitar playing. I eat every day and I live in a place with nobody shooting at me. So
There you go.
I'm grateful for all of those things, and I feel as successful as I think that I want to be. There was a time when I wanted to be, a big star.
Right.
But what a lot of trouble. What a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have some more money. But
course.
even so, what would I do? Fly back to Australia? Oh, golly, that's 20 hours in the air. No, thank you.
No thanks. Wow.
No thanks.
Yeah. I just thought that maybe something in your. I know there are a lot of songs, and there's a few that I've written that I think stick out. In fact, the song that we use for the podcast is one that I wrote as an homage to Doug Somm.
All right,
I'll
yeah.
send it to you. And I think that's a hit right now, as it is. And I'm actually in a Nashville music contest right now with, in fact, another song off that same album. So we'll see. I'm the One to Blame, it's called. So yeah, it's a story. It's the same thing. And let me tell you about that story, how that song came about. I'm the one to blame for asking her name is what it is. And the band was at my house practicing, and Michael and I lived together. And I had a friend over from work, and we were doing our thing. I was writing and smoking, and he was doing his thing, and he was telling this story, and I was really writing something, and I said, "Hold on, man, that's something there. Hold on." So he told it again later, and we made a song out of it, dude. And I remember a girl who used to love me, a perfect mix between sweet and mean. It's a great song. Anyways, so that's the song that's in the Nashville contest right now. So we'll see what happens with it.
I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you, sir. It's always no unless you try. You know what I'm saying? Unless you ask. It's always gonna be no. You're never gonna know. Like as far as my screenwriting is concerned, I sent a short when I finished the short, I was like, man, I think this would be a good play, and I've never written a play. So I wrote it. I found the format and kind of wrote one, wrote it out as a play, and sent it to Vortex Theater here in Albuquerque, which is like the oldest theater in the region. Um, and long story short, I'm now a member of the Vortex Company of Dramatists. Um,
They suck you in, don't they?
I got another one coming that's hopefully going to be running. We're going to do a workshop in December, I think, for a second play that hopefully next year I can get the whole thing on. Boom. We'll see. Anyway, sir, the whole thing, and we started at the beginning with talking about legacy. And for you, when did you realize what the word legacy means, and what does it mean to you now?
It's something people talk about all the time, and I'm not even sure what it means. It supposedly means the way that you're remembered.
Right.
And yeah, I think about the way that I'm remembered, but I try to think more about the way that I live.
Nice.
It's like this whole religion thing, about God. It doesn't make any difference to me whether there's a God. I'm going to live the same way.
Right.
I'm going to behave towards my fellows the way that I feel that I should behave towards my fellows.
Exactly.
And my legacy is the same. Hopefully there will be some people who will say, "Oh, he played guitar great, and here's one of his songs." But overall, when I'm gone, I'm gone. I will have had my adventure. I will have done what I can to make the world a better place.
Yes, sir.
I will have written down a lot of both my musings and my observations on what's happened in life, and offered them for the world to see. And is that my legacy? Is that what we mean by a legacy?
Yeah.
Do I want to be remembered as something great, or someone great, or influential? Well, no, I'm not. I am what I am. If anything, I'd like to be remembered as the everyman journeyman guitar player.
Nice.
The one who could have done better if they were greedier.
Nice. That's very nice. I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I'm not sure when this one is going to air, but I think it's going to be in November. So I'm not sure. I'll make sure to find out where you're playing at that time, and we'll post where you're playing along with the episode when it drops, and hopefully get some people out there to come check you out.
Well, mostly what I do these days is try and make other people sound good. It's what I enjoy doing the best. I don't know if I had some trouble with my voice. I lost my voice for about a year.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Well, I had an aneurysm,
Ah,
and it pressed against a nerve on my vocal cord and paralyzed my vocal cord. So I haven't been singing much, and consequently I haven't been writing. I've been writing prose, but I haven't been writing music much. But I've been concentrating on just playing the guitar and remembering that my job is to make the singer sound as good as he possibly can.
nice. Well, I can't wait to get back when I get back to San Antonio to sit down and play with you again. This time I will be not a nobody or not someone who doesn't know how to play. At least I'll have a little bit to hang with you and do some rhythm to you.
You could bring your songs to the band and let us feature them.
Oh, sure. I could. There's a couple that I've been working on. We could do that.
Can I tell you one more story before we close up here?
Sure.
I was in a Guitar Center or one of those big guitar shops. I don't know why. I never buy anything from them. But I was there, and there was a kid came in, about a 14-year-old kid with his mother. And the salesman comes up and he says, "So, you're looking for a guitar?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "What kind of music do you want to play?" And this, if you're going to play bluegrass, then you got to buy this Martin. If you're going to play, whatever you buy this guitar. Anyhow, I waited until the salesman walked away, and I walked over to the kid and I said, "Play every guitar on the rack. The one that is your guitar will say, 'Hey, I'm your guitar. Take me home.' If he's $500, you're lucky. at least $5,000, you'll have him for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir. That's great. I can't wait to upgrade my guitars, but right now I'm in love with this one. Um, but Mr. Jack, let me let you go. I know it's about lunchtime for both of us. And I really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to when I get back to San Antonio to hanging out with you for a little bit, and I'll bring some goodies with me.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm honored and flattered that you have me on. So thank you very much, Dave. I look forward to seeing you again.
Jack, you have a great day, brother.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.